Yo, I don't know if this is picking me up, but uh, today we're gonna be reading Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Um, this is a really good book. It was recommended to me by a friend, so we're just gonna get started. The monastery of Christ in the desert sits in miles of undistributed desert on the banks of the Kama River in Abiqui, New Mexico. The 13.5 mile dirt road from the highway that leads you there is usually washed out, so you can't bring out a car. Thomas Merton loved it there. He said this monastery was a place where people can go to readjust their perspectives. I read about it in a book and thought that's what I needed at this time, a spiritual realignment. I was all messed up in the head, lost in excess of my newfound fame and struggling with a non deserving complex. My now ruthless existence not only had me searching for my bearings, it was bearing down on me. How could a working class kid from Uvalde, Texas be deserving of all this opulence and accolade? I don't know how to navigate the descendants of my success, much less believe it was mine to enjoy. I don't know who to trust, including myself. In the book, the brother said that if you can get to us, just ring the bell. We'll take you in. A good friend of mine drove from Hollywood to that dirt road where he dropped me off, and I made the 13.5 mile march to the monastery. I drove an hour after sundown and rang the bell. Dressed in cowl and tunic, a short man named Brother Andre greeted me. Welcome, brother. All travelers have a place to stay here. I washed up and went to the group dinner where psalms was read aloud and talking was strictly prohibited. Later, Brother Andre ushered me to a small, simple room with a cot and a sleeping mat on the floor where I lay down for the night. The next day, I said to Brother Andre, I need to talk about some things going on in my life and mind. Do you know who I could talk to? Yes, he said. Brother Christian would be a great man for you to talk to about such things. I met Brother Christian and we went for a long walk in the desert. I unloaded my feelings of guilt, the low and lecherous places in my mind had been traveling, the perseverance of my thoughts. Since becoming famous, I professed. I've I've tried to be a good man, to not lie and to deceive myself, to be more pure of heart and mind. But I am full of lust, objectifying other people and myself. I do not feel a connection to my past, nor see the path to my future. I'm lost. I don't feel myself. I shared the demons in my mind for 3.5 hours with Brother Christian. I took myself to the woodshed. He did not say a word, not one. He patiently listened as we wandered side by side through the desert. At hour 4, we found ourselves back at the chapel sitting on a bench just outside the entrance. Now weeping, I eventually came to the end of my confession. We sat in silence while I awaited Christian's judgment. Nothing. Finally, in the unrest of the stillness, I looked up. Brother Christian, who hadn't said one word to me this entire time, looked me in the eyes in almost a whisper and said to me, Me too. Sometimes we don't need advice. Sometimes we just need to hear we're not the only one. And then a poem. Both are true. I'm an optimist by nature. My eye is high. I have hope, and the man I want to be sleeps in the same bed with me, with the man I am, in head, heart, spirit, and body. I don't always enjoy my company because of that son of a Jiminy Cricket, but I am rarely able to knock off my shoulder either, and for good reason. Even when I'm out of tune, off frequency, having trouble feeling any traction or viscosity between my being and my actions, or alternately, when I'm also so lost in the music that I am unaware, my best self is always there. And he will start the Socratic dialogue sooner than I choose to hear him, and long after I want to, because he's insatiable. I, of course, eventually do hear him, and the challenge becomes to listen. Once I do, and stop pitting fate against responsibility, truth against fiction, sins against who I wish I was, selfishness against selflessness, morality against eternity, I learn. And then begin just being who I am and doing what I do, for me, not for anyone else, and for everyone else at the same time. For me and God together. Then I realize I'm responsible for fiction is truthful, a sinner and a saint I am, an egotistical, utilitarian as well. I'll be able I'll be more mortal forever. Now each step at a time has the biggest picture in mind, and I'm the man I want to be. Jiminy Cricket is a bluebird on my shoulder, and Socrates has one voice. I didn't mishandle my newfound fame as much as I didn't really have a handle on it. I was numb, occasionally dumb, and picked a few battles that I did not need picking. If I was thrown off balance for a bit, it was mainly because I gave a damn and it mattered to me what it meant and didn't. Mostly, I danced lightly between the raindrops. I enjoyed being able to finally put super unleaded gasoline in my truck, picking up the tab when I went out with friends, getting the backstage passes, and working with so many talented people. I tried to remain a gentleman and accept the caviar, fine wines, and the I love yous with grace. But a lot of it felt like the maid was still pressing my jeans after I asked her not to. I made sure to call my mom every Sunday. Only it wasn't my mom I was calling anymore. It wasn't my mom who was listening to me. It wasn't my mom who was talking to her son. It was a woman who was more enamored with my fame than I was. This was never more evident than when I got a call from home, a friend one night. Dude, are you watching this? Watching what? Put on Channel 7, hard copy, my friend says. I turn on the tube, put on Channel 7, and there's my mother, talking to the camera that is following her through our house on a guided tour. And this is the bed where he lost his virginity to Melissa. I think her name was. Anyway, doesn't matter. She don't last. And this is the bathroom, just a shower, no bathtub, and you know what I caught him doing in here. Haha. But trust me, it's no big deal. I've seen it plenty of times. I call mom. Mom, what did you do? What? Hard copy. What hard copy? Mom, I'm watching it right now. You are too. I can hear it in the background. Oh, that? Yeah, that. I didn't think you'd find out. Mom, it's on national television. How would I not find out? Sadly, my relationship with my mom was strenuous for the next 8 years. Loose lips sink ships, I kept telling her. She tried, it didn't matter. She couldn't help herself. She wanted a piece of my fame, and while I was still finding my balance with it, I wasn't self-assured enough to share it with anyone else, especially my own mother. The more she wanted a piece of my place, the more I locked her out. If Dad were alive, he would have loved my success, but unlike Mom, he would have been in the front row, not trying to steal my show. With Mom, as soon as I'd show up, she was saying, come back soon, so I started leaving early. I'd give her an inch, and she'd take a mile. So when she didn't meet me halfway, I started walking twice as slow to make her way twice as long. I quit sharing any of my life or experiences with her. I couldn't trust her. I didn't need another friend on my bandwagon. I needed my mom, and unfortunately, she was on another type of extended vacation. Years later, with my feet more firmly on the ground and my career established, I said F it and loosened my reins on her. She was in her 70s, and I figured I might as well let her have all the fun she wants to. And to this day, she does. She loves the red carpet, doing interviews, telling the world she knows where I got her from. She got a point. And then a poem. The art of running downhill. Don't trip yourself while running downhill. The mountain that you want to climb is just around the corner. Don't invent drama. It'll come on its own. It will come on its own, yeah. It's been 4 months since Time to Kill had been released, and I was in high demand. Warner Bros., who I signed a 3-picture deal with prior to doing A Time to Kill, was anxiously anticipating my next role. Dozens of offers came my way. I even started a production company to create material of my own. I was hungry to go to work. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. One of my strengths has always been that I can find an angle on anything. But now, with the ability to do almost anything, that strength was weakness. Every project looked possible to me. And then a poem. A man addicted to ideas need be intervened with starvation. A man addicted to truths needs to be fed. Feeling pressure to make a decision on my next movie, smothered by the blind affections of my recent fame and having a new wild card for a mom, I wanted to go somewhere where nobody knew my name. I needed to reaffirm that I, Matthew, not my fame, was justification for any adulation adulation I received. I needed to go someplace where my affections I collected would be solely based on the man those strangers met and got to know after I arrived, not before. I needed to hear myself think, to check in, to check out, to check in. so I could settle into my new position of leverage, measure it, get less impressed with it, find some discernment, and figure out what kind of role and what type of film I wanted to do next. I needed some starvation. Then I had a wet dream. Yes, the involuntary intercourse, hands and fellatio free nocturnal emission of semen one has while sleeping. Rare but unwelcome. These lucid dreams most commonly involve a theme of sexual activity. This wet dream was not common. I was seeing myself floating downstream on my back in the Amazon River, wrapped by anacondas and pythons, surrounded by crocodiles, piranhas, and freshwater sharks. There were African tribesmen lined up shoulder to shoulder on the ridge to the left of me as far as my eyes could see. I was at peace. 11 frames, 11 seconds. And then I came up. Then I came. I woke up. Whoa, all the elements of a nightmare, but it was a wet dream. Green light. What does it mean? I wondered. There were two things I was sure about in this dream. One, I was on the Amazon River, and two, those were African tribesmen on the ridge. I got out of bed and grabbed my world atlas, then turned to the continent of Africa and started looking for the Amazon. Well, as you probably know, you can look a mighty long time for the Amazon River in the continent of Africa because you're not going to find it. I looked for that river for 2 hours until I realized, wrong continent, the Amazon's in South America. Damn, dreams can be tricky. Nevertheless, it was a sign and just what I was looking for. It was time to chase down my wet dream. And then a poem. Just because the seats are empty doesn't mean they're not taken. Sometimes the guest list needs to be for one, you. I crammed my backpack with minimal clothing, my journal, camera, medical kit, a hit of ecstasy, and my favorite headband, then embarked on a 22-day solo trip to Peru to find and float the Amazon River. Yes, the one in South America. I flew to Lima, then on to Cusco, where I met a guide and we mapped out my 3-week journey to the Amazon River over Anticuchos and Pisco. I hiked the Andes and along the Urubamba River into the lost city of Machu Picchu, listening to John Mellencamp's album on my Walkman as I climbed. Then I took a bus, boat, and plane ride to get to the largest city in the world. You can't get to by car. Iquitos, the Peruvian capital of the Amazon. Yeah. And then it says Anticuchos is grilled cow heart, the perfect first meal in a developing country. It'll get you sick early in the trip so you get sick less later. And then was an album my brother Pat turned me onto in 1983. My favorite tune on the album, Pink Houses, has always been the most archetypal song for America, about America for me. A song about generations, faiths, and dreams lost and found. It was paramount in shaping the kind of patriot I was and am. It was the 12th night, and of my 22-day adventure, and I was settling into camp. I already hiked over 80 miles to this point, and tomorrow I'd finally be in the waters of my wet dream, the Amazon River. Up to this point in the trip, I had a hard time being present. So excited in anticipation of what the Amazon would mean to me. I had missed most of the beauties getting there. Still wrestling with my identity, I was guilt-ridden over sins of my past, lonely, and disgusted with the company I was keeping, my own. In my tent, grappling with my demons, I couldn't sleep, so I quit trying to. Instead, I stripped off my clothes, along with every badge, banner, expectation, and affiliation I had on me. I discarded the American baseball cap that was my totem to patriotism, the Celtic knot pendant that symbolized my Irish heritage, the Lone Star flag amulet that stood for my Texas pride, and every other mascot of inspiration from adventures past. I even discarded my gold ring my father had given me that was made from a meltdown of his and my mom's class rings, and gold from one of her teeth. I removed every idol that ever gave me comfort and security, pride, or confidence. All the window dressings and representations, the packaging around my product was gone. I even punched myself in the face a couple times for good measure. Who was I? Not only on this trip, but in this life. Now naked and stripped down to nothing, I was a child of God, and nothing more. Soaked in a cold sweat, I vomited until there was no bile left in my belly, then passed out from exhaustion. And then a poem. Sometimes we have to leave what we know to find out what we know. and then this will be the last page. A few hours later, I awoke on the 13th morning to a rising sun, surprisingly fresh and energized. I dressed, made some tea, and went for a morning walk, not toward my destination or any expectation, but rather to nowhere in particular. I felt great, alive, clean, free, bright. Walking along a muddy path, I turned a corner, and there in the middle of the middle of the trail was a mirage of the most magnificent pinks and blues and red colors I'd ever seen. It was electric, glowing, and vibrant, hovering just above the jungle floor, pulsing as if it was plugged into some neon-charged power plant. I stopped, stared. I backed up a pace. There was no way around it, and it was no mirage at all. The jungle floor in front of me was actually a kaleidoscope of thousands of butterflies. It was spectacular. I stayed a while, gaping in wonder. Captivated, I heard this little voice inside my head that said these words: all I want is what I can see. All I can see is in front of me. No longer in a rush to get anywhere, or anticipating what was around the corner, coming up next, or up ahead. Time slowed down. I raised my chin to the sky and said a quiet thank you, then glanced down the path that just passed the massive menagerie of levitating butterflies, and there, for the first time, I saw the Amazon River. The tower of all my anxieties now lying down, laterally in front of me, just like that slow-moving river. For the first time in months, I was at ease. Alright, and that's it.